In the waning months of World War II, USS Canberra was thrust into the Pacific's violent theater of war. Newly commissioned, she navigated into the maelstrom of battle late, but her participation would be exceptional. Canberra met her trial by fire in the heart of the most brutal encounters: Leyte Gulf, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Each battle drove her deeper into territories held in the clenched fist of the Japanese Empire. Yet, in the face of escalating danger, her luck was to crumble. On October 13th, Canberra fell victim to a brutal assault. A Japanese aircraft's torpedo struck beneath the cruiser's armor belt with remarkable accuracy. The blast hurled crew members into the air and ripped open the engineering rooms, exposing them to the relentless sea. She teetered on the brink, nearly claimed by the ocean's depths. But Canberra's story was not meant to end that day. From this devastating blow, she was reborn through a transformative overhaul. This reconstruction made her ready to grapple with the demands of modern warfare. The combat career of USS Canberra was far from over. It still had a pivotal role to play in the unfurling of modern history. Taking a foreign name. Born from the efforts of Bethlehem Steel Company, Fall River Shipyard in Quincy, Massachusetts, USS Pittsburgh, a Baltimore-class heavy cruiser, was laid down on September 3, 1941. However, her destiny was rewritten mid-construction when an act of valor from the other side of the world resonated with United States President Franklin D. Roosevelt. During the Battle of Savo Island, the Australian cruiser HMAS Canberra demonstrated extraordinary courage, becoming an icon of resilience amidst the fierce conflict. This battle is marked in history as the United States Navy's worst naval defeat, a surprising onslaught led by Japanese cruisers and destroyers that left the Allied task force reeling. In the heat of the attack, HMAS Canberra was one of the first ships to bear the brunt of the enemy's firepower. The Australian vessel was critically damaged, her hull battered and riddled with shells. Yet, even under relentless assault and the threat of sinking, the crew stood resolute. Flames consumed the ship, and the wounded cried out in pain. Yet bravery emanated from the crew in the face of extreme adversity. Captain Frank Getting, though seriously injured, held his command from the bridge until he could no longer stand. Their valiant attempts to save the ship and protect their comrades were a testament to the unyielding spirit of the Australian sailors. Ultimately, HMAS Canberra was scuttled, her wounds too grievous, leaving 84 brave souls behind and 109 others injured. USS Pittsburgh's fate was sealed in honor of this act of valor. Renamed USS Canberra, the American warship was intended to be a living tribute to the Australian sailors' courage and sacrifice during the Battle of Savo Island. Lady Alice Dixon, wife of the Australian ambassador to the United States, had the honor of launching the newly renamed vessel on April 19, 1943. USS Canberra thus joined the rare leagues of United States warships named after foreign cities. Under the command of Captain Alex Riemann Early, USS Canberra officially joined the U.S. Navy on October 14, 1943. In a gesture of deep mutual respect, the Australian government reciprocated by naming a new tribal-class destroyer, HMAS Bataan, after the U.S.'s stand during the Battle of Bataan. Departing from Boston in January 1944 and joining Task Force 58 by mid-February after a stop in San Diego, USS Canberra was cast straight into the Pacific's tumultuous theater of war. The fresh scars of her namesake's fall and the weight of her newly christened name set the stage for her brutal yet crucial role in the unfolding conflict. Rise and fall. In the final days of February, USS Canberra flexed her might during the Battle of Inuiatak, raining down supportive bombardment as Allied troops advanced. As March ushered in spring, she joined USS Yorktown's task group. Together, they dominated the skies, with air raids over Palau, Yap, Ulithi, and Woliai at the end of March and early April. She was the dutiful escort to Yorktown's aircraft, supporting amphibious landings at Hollandia and Wakta on April 13th. By the end of April, USS Canberra was transferred to USS Enterprises Group, participating in air assaults on Truk. During this operation, she flexed her individual power, detaching to obliterate a Japanese airbase at Satawan. The cruiser's relentless energy carried her through raids on Marcus and Wake Islands in May, escalating to join operations to seize the Mariana and Palau Islands in June. Her fierce involvement in the Battle of the Philippine Sea and her shelling of Japanese positions in the Bonin Islands demonstrated her integral role in this campaign. As summer bled into autumn, USS Canberra was relentless in her pursuit of victory. She performed raids on the Palaus and the Philippines, lending her powerful gunfire support during the Morotai landings in August and September. As October dawned, she joined Task Force 38, focusing on air raids on Okinawa and Taiwan, preparing for the Leyte landings. The war was almost over. Everyone could feel it, and after a streak of victories, the crew of USS Canberra was eager to go home and enjoy a well-deserved respite. Nevertheless, fate had other plans. On October 13th, a Japanese aircraft delivered a brutal blow, with an airdrop torpedo striking below her armor belt. The blast resulted in the loss of 23 brave lives, exposed her engineering spaces to the relentless ocean, and brought the mighty cruiser to a standstill. The ship began to take in water, and the crew fought bravely to keep her afloat. USS Wichita swooped in to tow her to USS Muncie, which then took over, putting a salvage crew aboard. Tragically, during the tow, the salvage officer from Muncie lost his life while diving into the cruiser's flooded engine room to make temporary repairs. After a grueling 2-week tow towards Ulithi, with the War Shipping Administration leased tug Watch Hill joining Muncie, Canberra was finally delivered to the repair ship USS Ajax. Following temporary repairs at Manus, the battle-scarred cruiser sailed under her own power to Boston Navy Yard. The ship was destined for much more than conventional repairs, and she would soon herald a new era in naval combat prowess. Rebirth. USS Canberra's active service came to a pause on March 7, 1947, as she was decommissioned and stationed with the Pacific Reserve Fleet at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Bremerton, Washington. However, destiny had a new chapter in store for her, placing her again at the forefront of innovation and power. On January 4, 1952, USS Canberra was selected for a transformative journey, a pioneering experiment that would turn her into a Boston-class cruiser. She was towed to the New York Shipbuilding Corporation in Camden, New Jersey, where she was to undergo a conversion into a guided missile cruiser. Her designation was changed to CAG-2, marking her new purpose and capabilities. In the crucible of conversion, her aft 8-inch and 5-inch gun turrets were replaced by twin RIM-2 Terrier missile launchers. Her aft superstructure was revamped, and her 2 funnels were remolded into a single unit. The intense modifications came to completion by June 1956, making USS Canberra the second guided missile ship in the USN fleet. She was intended to serve as the blueprint for future upgrades if the conversion proved successful. However, the lightning pace of missile technology advancement rendered the Terrier system obsolete by 1964, and the conversion was halted. On June 15, 1956, the transformed USS Canberra was recommissioned and assigned a new home port at Norfolk, Virginia. From June until March 1957, the cruiser sailed from Norfolk and throughout the Caribbean. On March 14th, she undertook a task of great honor, ferrying President Dwight D. Eisenhower to Bermuda for a conference with British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan. Back on American shores by March 9, 1958, the cruiser hosted a change of command ceremony in mid-April, witnessing Rear Admiral Charles B. Martel taking over from Rear Admiral Charles L. Milson as commander of Cruiser Division 4 at Norfolk Air Base. Further adding to her accolades, on May 26th, the ceremony for selecting the unknown soldier representing World War II took place aboard USS Canberra. From March 3rd to October 24th, 1960, USS Canberra embarked on an 8-month round-the-world cruise, demonstrating her formidable missile capabilities to U.S. and Allied forces. During the journey, she visited the site where her Australian namesake sank, paying respect to her heritage and the locations where she had served during World War II. But the peacetime operation would soon end, and geopolitical turmoil would send Canberra back into action. Cold War. The year was 1962, and the world was teetering on the precipice of nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Pictures taken by an American U-2 spy plane showed the Soviet Union was building medium-range ballistic missile sites in Cuba. The missiles could carry nuclear warheads and hit major U.S. cities, including Washington, D.C. This escalated the threat level to a degree not seen before in the Cold War. Instead of launching a military strike against the missile sites, U.S. President John F. Kennedy decided to implement a naval blockade, which he referred to as a quarantine, around Cuba. This decision was made on October 22, 1962. The intention was to prevent any further offensive weapons from reaching Cuba. USS Canberra set a course south from Norfolk, joining a naval blockade to de-escalate the crisis. The once World War II cruiser now found herself in the throes of a different conflict, this time closer to American shores. Canberra and the entire blockade were crucial in resolving the Cuban Missile Crisis without escalation. Still, the warship's antagonism with communist forces was far from over. USS Canberra was stationed in San Diego when the Vietnam War broke out. She would deploy to Vietnam 5 times between 1965 and 1969. With her mighty 8-inch and 5-inch guns, she was a formidable force, providing critical support for American ground troops across several campaigns against the North Vietnamese Communist forces and the Viet Cong. In 1967 and 68, USS Canberra took the fight right into the enemy's home, operating north of the demilitarized zone, her guns raining destruction on bridges, transport routes, and shore installations, considerably weakening the enemy's infrastructure and ability to wage war. Still, even with no significant naval threats in the coastal waters of Vietnam, the region was not free from peril, as the cruiser found out on March 2, 1967. 2 shells fired from ashore struck her, resulting in 5 injuries and minor structural damage. Despite being technologically superior, the ship was not invulnerable. In an unfortunate accident on April 6, 1967, a young seaman named Doug Hegdal was thrown overboard by one of the 5-inch guns. He was soon captured by a North Vietnamese gunboat. He was imprisoned in the infamous Hanoi Hilton. His recollections would later expose the tortures committed by the North Vietnamese at their POW camps. As the 1968 Tet Offensive unfurled, USS Canberra relocated south to aid the embattled troops at Hue, launching an impressive 35,000 rounds in 31 days. She was redesignated to her original hull number, CA-70, on May 1, 1968. With the obsolescence of her missile armament, her 8-inch guns were again recognized as her main armament. However, the Terrier launchers would remain until her decommissioning. The cruiser's final tour in Vietnam concluded in early January 1969, marking the end of another chapter in her illustrious service history. Legacy. USS Canberra was decommissioned on February 2, 1970, marking the end of an era of valiant service. Her name was stricken from the Naval Vessel Register on July 31, 1978, severing her official ties with the Navy. On June 15, 1980, she was sold for scrap to National Metal. She left the Saisun Bay Inactive Ship Maintenance Facility on August 1st to meet her final end. Bits and pieces of the once mighty ship endure, serving as reminders of her glorious past. One of her propellers found a new home at the Los Angeles Maritime Museum, preserved for future generations. The ship's bell found its way to Australia. Despite laws against the possession of naval artifacts by other nations, a campaign bore fruit when U.S. President George W. Bush presented the bell to Australian Prime Minister John Howard on September 10, 2001. It was a commemoration of 50 years of the UNZUS Treaty. The 250-pound bell now resides in the USA Gallery of the Australian National Maritime Museum. The legacy of USS Canberra is undeniably etched into the annals of U.S. naval history. A tribute to the fallen Australian cruiser HMAS Canberra, she remains the only American naval ship named after a foreign capital. This unique distinction symbolizes the enduring bond between the United States and Australia. Her service record paints a picture of adaptability and resilience. From a heavy cruiser in World War II to a guided missile cruiser during the Vietnam War, Canberra showcased the evolution of naval warfare. Throughout history, she stood firm, shaping the outcome of World War II, playing a part in defusing the Cuban Missile Crisis and providing invaluable support during the Vietnam War. USS Canberra, an emblem of honor, valor, and adaptation, has earned her place in the chronicles of America. Her legacy is carried forward by the battle scars she amassed, the memories of her crew, and the stories of her impressive feats in service of her nation. Thank you for watching our video. For more warships and naval battles that redefined maritime warfare, like and subscribe to Dark Docs. For more military content, check out our other Dark Documentaries channels. And as always, stay tuned for more.